Hey everybody, it's Rob here at etrailer.com, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Tooley Helium Pro hanging style bike rack on our 2019 Ford Edge. Now our Tooley Helium Pro is going to come in a couple different variations. Here we have the 2-bike version. It'll be able to carry up to 2 bikes, but there is a 3-bike version as well. So if you're looking to carry more than 2 bikes, you might want to look into that 3-bike version. But it is going to be a hanging style rack. So it's going to hold our bikes down at 3 different points. We'll have 2 points on the top cross tube and then 1 on the vertical support to kind of act as an anti-sway to prevent the bike from swinging too much back and forth and preventing that bike-to-bike contact. Now the way it's going to be held down is just by these ratcheting straps. So you just push the button, we can loosen them up. We'll go ahead and pull the bike off so we can take a closer look at the rack. Pretty simple though, just feed them through, then we can grab our bike, lift it up, and take it off and set it aside. Now inside the cradle you'll see that we're going to have this nice soft material, so we're not going to have to worry about any kind of scratches or abrasions on the finish on our bike, but it's also going to hold the bike real well. And these indentations in there are for our cables, in case we have cables running around the outside of the frame of our bike, they won't get crushed. And the nice thing about these is they are movable, so we can tilt them, we can adjust the size of frame that we have on our bikes, make it a little bit easier to load up. Now that soft material is also on the inside of the strap, so again, don't have to worry about it getting damaged by anything. I always like to replace these, just don't have to hear them flopping when we're driving down in the wind. But the nice thing about these cradles, besides the material it's made out of, each one of them is spaced 7 inches apart. Also notice that it kind of goes up at an angle. That definitely helps out when you're loading your bikes, and the 7-inch spacing definitely limits the amount of handlebar, pedal to pedal, and seat contact that we have, and it just makes it a little bit easier to get a few bikes in place without having to fight everything. Now being able to carry 2 bikes with you is nice, and especially since we don't have to fight the hatch, try to cram them in there. But as you can see, we're adding quite a bit of space to the back of our edge, so I'd like to give you a few measurements. If I measure from the very back of the bumper to the furthest point on our rack, it's going to come in right about 31 inches. Now with the closest point, it's probably going to be right back here at the bottom of the mast, and that's going to come in right about 5.5 inches. So we don't always have that extra space, but we do have the option when our bikes are not on the rack. We can come to this lever on top, and we can rotate the arms down so to definitely cut down on the space. Now the furthest point of the rack is only coming in right about 16 inches, so it definitely cut down on that space. Now another important measurement is your ground clearance. Now our edge doesn't sit extremely low to the ground, but if we're traveling, going up really steep driveways, big hills, or anything like that, it is important to know the furthest point back on the rack. Now there's a little bit of a step there, but at the lowest point at the back, it's coming in right about 14 inches. So we really shouldn't have too much trouble, but if you have a really steep driveway, you do want to keep that in mind. Now I'm guilty of it myself, I know a lot of us are, but we'll get to the trail, maybe we're getting ready to leave, whatever the case is, and somebody forgot something in the back. Well, I don't want to crawl all the way from the front to the back, and I also don't want to pull the bike rack out. Well, if we come to the bottom of the mast, where that gray lever is, we can lift up. It'll actually give us the option to tilt the bike rack away, so we have plenty of room to access our rear hatch, get anything we need in or out. And you can see there's plenty of space here next to the rack in between the car, so don't have to worry about any kind of interference. And we can simply close it up when we're done, lift the rack up, and we'll hear that audible click knowing that it's locked back in place. And speaking of locks, our rack does include a cable lock, so we can make sure that our bikes are secured to the rack in case we have to leave, or maybe we just stop by the store. We can make sure that they are going to be secure and prevent any kind of tampering. Now our Helium Pro is going to work with both 1.25" and 2-inch hitches. Now what I really like about it is that it uses a tool-free design. It actually has a built-in stinger that will automatically go into the hitch pin hole whenever we put it in. This large knob here, and so it's going to take all the slop and slack out of the receiver tube, so it'll be nice and quiet and secure on the back of our edge. Now you'll also notice that it does use a lock It's the same key, and it's keyed just like the cable lock, so we only have one set of keys to make sure that the rack is secure to our edge and the bikes are secure to the rack. If I grab the rack here, start shaking, you can see the entire car actually starts moving because there's no playback here. So we can make sure that we have a nice, quiet, comfortable ride. Now, I know a lot of you want to see how the rack is going to perform on the road, and since we went over some of the features, let's take it on our test course and see how it handles.
This is our test course. Let's start with the slalom. This shows side-to-side action, such as turning corners or evasive maneuvering. Then, onto our alternating speed bumps. This shows twisting action, such as hitting curbs, potholes, road debris, or even uneven pavement. Last of all, the solid speed bumps. This shows up and down action, such as driving through a parking lot or parking garage, or driving in and out of a driveway.
So overall, I think our Tooley Helium Pro is a really nice bike rack. It has all those features that you expect from a premium rack, like the anti-rattle and the security devices built in. But what really stands out to me is the weight that it is. It's actually a really lightweight rack. It's made out of aluminum, so if we do have to take it out and put it in a few times a week or however often you do it, it's definitely going to save on your back because our bike rack only weighs about 20 pounds. With all that being said, again, I'm Rob here at etrailer.com, and that'll finish up your look at the Tooley Helium Pro hanging style bike rack on our 2019 Ford Edge.